On this episode of the Five Paragraph Podcast, I, your host, Michael J. Penney, am here with Randy Mortensen of randymortensen.com. He's a serial entrepreneur, he's a business leader, and he helps tear down that stigma of substance abuse issues inside of the larger business world. And we are going to get into randymortensen.com and how he can add value to your organization through this episode of the Five Paragraph Podcast. So without further ado, Randy Mortensen, welcome to the Five Paragraph Podcast.
Michael, it's just an honor and a blessing to be here today, and I'm just hoping I can add some value to the high quality material and content that you offer to your listeners.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a privilege having you, honestly. It's great that we have the ability to connect. We said that it's kind of serendipitous that we should wind up connecting. Both being from the Midwest and also, the tiny little town, Bad Axe, Michigan, where my mother originates from. So, okay, we met over LinkedIn and we talked a little bit about your background. You were born in Iowa, but then raised in Southwest Minnesota. And correct me if I'm wrong. You started
you're right on.
Farm, didn't you?
You're right on. Yeah. Well, and if you remember, the reason I know Bad Axe, that was the first bank job that I was offered coming out of school. And I looked it up and I said, yeah, I don't think so. Show me another one, basically. So otherwise, I would have not known where Bad Axe, Michigan is either.
Yeah. Well, and I don't blame you. I mean, so the 12 people who live there are going to be really upset that we're bashing them. Okay.
No, I'm not bashing it.
Small town.
Yeah, I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
How's that? Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So, but you do have a hard work, business, family background. I thought it was pretty interesting how, your old man never wanted to be a farmer, but then you wound up learning some of those life lessons along the way. Could you share a little bit with our audience?
Well, as I shared with you, I think my grandpa and grandma Mortensen bought each of their three kids a farm when they got married. And that's how we ended up being on a farm in southwestern Minnesota, because the farmland was too expensive in Iowa. So the further north you went, the less expensive the farmland was. And that's how we ended up in the great area of Pipestone, Minnesota. And yes, we had hundreds, thousands of pigs. And like I probably shared with you, one of the early life lessons for me, because my duties on Saturday were doing what? Cleaning the pig house. And you learn the life lesson, don't bite your fingernails when you're cleaning the pig house.
Oh.
And my dad was an entrepreneur, and he not only maintained the farm, but then we moved into town. He acquired a plumbing and heating business that then became a mechanical contracting operation. And so I learned a lot from him. You'll learn the more you get to know me. I actually had 3 paper routes as a 12, 13-year-old. And so I had an early desire to be an entrepreneur. And my dad was always the encourager. He was a great leader and had an awesome mom. And so I had great parents growing up.
Outstanding. So you're college educated. Did you go straight into the banking industry? Did you always know that business was right for you, in the early stages?
Well, I started out, here's the dirty little secret. What I say is here's the 3 reasons I went to college: play baseball, drink beer, and chase women. Okay. That's not a good thing. So anybody under 30, please ignore that you just heard me say that.
Right. Life lesson here. We're talking insights, don't do's kind of. Right. Excellent.
But the reason I went into the banking industry is my dad was a successful business person, and he wanted to buy a bank back in that era. This is, it's not 100 years ago, but it feels like it, when it was still possible for business people to acquire a bank, and in rural Midwest. Well, the sad thing is 6 months into my banking career, my dad had already had 2 heart attacks. So then he had open heart surgery, and he died 6 months into my banking career. So that pretty much shot my opportunity of owning a bank. And then I went into financial services, and I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in my mid to late 20s and into my early 30s. So I was successful on a business standpoint and financial services for sure.
Right. And then leading into the situation paragraph, let's say, for instance, you do have a harrowing, tragic story also. And I don't want to pry into the background of everything in that regard, but just a little bit what led into the situation, the problem opportunity of substance abuse inside of business America, let's say, for instance.
Yeah, in my case, you mentioned I mentioned the first one. Losing my dad as a 45-year-old man when I was just coming out of school really just set me off into a tailspin. And the dirty little secret is I started drinking when I was 13. But it wasn't the taste of the beer so much as it was the exhilaration of not getting caught. And that just really, I don't know that it motivated me, but it caused me to make some pretty poor choices. And so I had already ruined a first marriage because of those poor choices. And I was married the second time, and we were at a place on the river living in Iowa at that time. And all of a sudden my 5-year-old son just doubled over in excruciating pain. And he was vomiting green stuff out of his mouth. And he was saying, "Dad, Dad, Dad, help me." And there was nothing I could do. He was in excruciating pain. So we rushed him to the hospital. And that afternoon, an ER physician made a math error on the bed sheet. And Jay's electrolytes were out of balance. They were preparing him for an emergency appendectomy. And the emergency room physician did the math wrong in the bed sheet. So instead of pushing 2 milliequivalents of potassium, he pushed 20 milliequivalents of potassium. 2 ER nurses refused to do it. He said, "Here, I'll do it myself." And he sent my 5-year-old son into cardiac arrest, and he ultimately ended up killing him. So what I say is my poor choices cost me relationships and hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, but the poor choices of that physician who had worked 36 hours straight without sleep, and even though we couldn't ever prove it, he was high on crack cocaine. His poor choices cost me my 5-year-old son. So despite my success in the business world, the deep inside me, I had a broken heart, and it was the drinking that really caused me to go into this tailspin, despite making hundreds of thousands of dollars in my early 20s or in my late 20s into my early 30s. On the outside, I was this great, successful business guy, and on the inside, I was a mess. And I've seen that in other people, and that's an excuse for substance abuse or for drinking too much or using drugs inappropriately. And I've just seen the devastation that it causes in an individual's life and in their family, as well as in their business, is what I would say, to just sort of transition, if that's.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. No, that's great. There's the situation paragraph. You live it, breathe it, see it every single day. You identify that it's a need with that substance in your life's become unmanageable. Hey, we've got to figure out what to do about it. Well, the next phase is the mission. So Randy Mortensen of randymortensen.com, and that's Mortsen. So it's Mortensen. I always want to do the SON, but it's SEN. Yeah. randymortensen.com for those listeners that are out there on our iTunes, Apple, Stitcher, wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. It's randymortensen.com. So we're going into the mission here, and it doesn't need to be verbatim, but our audience members know you will do this in order to accomplish that kind of a deal. So the mission with randymortensen.com, what are you looking to do?
Well, the other thing that I will add too, which for your listeners, it might be easier, is if you text champion to 66866, that's champion to 66866. That will actually give you access to an assessment that is also on the front page of that website. And that 21 question assessment will determine whether a person has a mild, moderate, or severe case of substance use disorder, basically. And the reason why that's important is because I do actually have a lifestyle champion cohort that you'll find more information on the website. That's an 8-week program that is intended to leverage Zoom technology. And it's really intended for that person that says, I want help. I'm ready to change. If you're mild or moderate, you're a good fit for the program. If you're severe, we have some resources and partnerships to be able to refer you to that. What blows me away, Michael, is it doesn't matter the economic status, the education, how many degrees a person has. When they come to me and they say, Randy, I need help. And I said, well, it sounds like you want to do this. Why haven't you done this before? And the answer's always the same. They say, I don't know how. What do you mean you don't know how? You're brilliant, I don't know how. And that's where somebody like you or me, we can say, I know how you feel. I was lost. I was hurt. I was broken. I was, whatever adjective you choose. But then here's the path that I went down, or here's the path that I took, and here's who I am today. Who you are today doesn't define who you can be in the future. So I think as I was fortunate to be part of a company that was acquired by what today is a $50+ billion gas and electric utility in Minneapolis, I became a vice president of that utility on the unregulated side, had 350 to 400 people in that business unit. And I saw the hurt and the brokenness and the dysfunction. And it wasn't safe to go to HR, to human resources, because if you ever wanted a promotion or a raise, you don't want something negative in your HR file, right? And that's the stigma. Right. So what my mission is today is to come alongside that talented management professional and say, I know how you felt the same way. Here's what I did, and here's who I am today. Are you interested? So there's a variety of resources, but what holds too many people back in the corporate world, in our faith communities, is the stigma. So that's my mission today, is really to work to crush the stigma of substance use disorders.
Oh, that's outstanding. That's excellent. I definitely understand what it's like hurting inside and still having to throw on that exterior shell, and play the part, right? Because it is almost, it's almost like living a lie, right? It's like you're hurting inside and you do these things to yourself. And then when you wake up the next day, your problems even get worse.
Right.
And so you really don't know how to shrug that off. You don't know
Right.
how to get away from that. It's
Right.
so interesting. It seems like eons ago kind of a deal, but it is something that just feels like it's always kind of creeping up, I guess you could say. It's something that you live within. So
Right.
I understand what it's like. I definitely know how some of you out there, because we've shared this before, right? I quit drinking over 10 years ago. I'm very grateful that I wound up giving up alcohol. It has helped a lot in regard to learning and growing as a person, but there is that stigma, especially when I quit drinking in the Marine Corps. Dude, we're done going out every weekend? For real? Like, whoa, come on now. All right, I'm still crazy and I enjoy having fun. It's just that I don't have to consume alcohol anymore. I mean, really, come on. Right? And I hear what you're saying as far as stigma is concerned, having fought over in Afghanistan and then coming home and seeing that we're 99% of the world's opioid consumer over here. But at that same token, because it's so easy, especially in that deep, dark drug zone, as far as opioids, because they're a prescription drug that leads to a needle. There are all of these slippery slopes that are in front of us. It's almost like all of these tripwires were purposely set up in our way so that we can tumble over them.
Right.
What am I supposed to do? Just be a nun, a shining example wherever I go? Is that the answer? So in getting into the execution here with Randy Mortensen at randymortensen.com, and go and check him out. Fantastic guy. And getting into the execution on this, are you going in, are you doing keynotes? Are you doing breakouts, or kind of some of either panel discussion? What's your main value add for these organizations?
Well, let me add a couple of more points of color to what you were saying a minute ago, because the great thing about not drinking today and I'm closing in on 30 years here this month.
Ah.
And the great thing is when I wake up in the morning and I don't feel good, I don't have to wonder whether it's a hangover or whether I'm sick. Okay. That was what it was always, okay, well, I don't feel good. So am I sick or is this a hangover? Well, after you quit drinking, you know that you've got some sickness. The other thing that most people say, oh yeah, I remember is when I would wake up the next morning or the next day, I would catch myself telling lies to cover up what I thought I had said. And I hadn't really lied. So I told a lie to cover up a lie, but I hadn't lied in the first place. So it made me look even more ridiculous. Right. So now I know what I said. That doesn't mean I don't still say some things that I probably shouldn't. But that was another real challenge for me, was what did I say to him or what did I say to her? Now I remember. As I get older, it gets a little tougher to remember, but it's at least it's not the influence of alcohol. But here's what I would say to your question, Michael, is I really want to help that guy that is just struggling, and he's said 1,000 times, I'm going to quit, right? And nobody believes him anymore because they've heard him say it 1,000 times. And so whoever that person is, if it's not you, the listener, if it's somebody you love, you care about, you work with, just shoot them our way, shoot them my way, because the people that are dying, you mentioned the opioids. I live in a county where we have 3 to 5 overdose deaths a week in this county, okay? And it's only a county of 600,000 people. So here in Central Florida was kind of the hotbed of the opioid crisis. But guess what? Alcohol is still killing more people than all the drug overdoses combined, because it's alcohol having an effect on a car crash. It's alcohol having an effect on their immune system. Alcohol is still the dirty little secret, and yet it's legal, right? And so my mission is really to come alongside that person whose drive is led them down a path of destructive and compulsive behaviors. That's where I can help. I can't fix it, but I can help.
Right. And so that starts their journey. I'm kind of rolling into admin and logistics, the 4th paragraph for our listeners. That journey starts at randymortensen.com. Or could you share again, text champion? What was the number again?
Yeah, text champion to 66866. That's champion to 66866. Or you can call my office number, which is 321-757-HOPE. That's 321-757-HOPE. And where the real starting point for me is that some people say, well, I don't have a problem. You probably didn't do this, Michael, but I did. I said, well, I'm a functional alcoholic. Well, those two words don't belong. Functional and alcoholic don't belong in the same sentence. Okay.
Right.
And so the 21 question assessment that is on the front page of that randymortensen.com website will really allow you, the listener, to determine whether you have a mild, a moderate, or severe case of substance use disorder. Just those 21 questions will give you a good overview. And then I have what we call a lifestyle champion cohort, which is an 8-week session where we do 90-minute once a week sessions using Zoom technology to really allow you to evaluate yourself, to be equipped. So we do the teaching, here's some tools, here's some practices. And then the most important thing is, how do you enjoy your new life? How do you enjoy the new me, basically? And so those will have people literally from coast to coast on. And there's anonymity as confidentiality is absolutely stressed there, but that's one of the tools that I deliver directly, or I'm part of a lot of networks of intensive outpatient programs, which as long as you have a safe bed to sleep in at night, I'm a big believer in intensive outpatient. But if a short-term or a longer-term inpatient program, we have referrals for those programs also.
Wow. Right on. All right. So a plethora of resources. Check out randymortensen.com. If you need to go back in the episode and grab that phone number, by all means, call them up. All right. So, and if you folks have not already done so, subscribe, rate, review the podcast, subscribe to 5 Paragraph on YouTube, ring the bell, get these valuable insights, become a member of the 5P Inner Circle to see the full interview with Randy Mortensen, and check him out at randymortensen.com. All right, here's arguably my favorite part of the episode. You ready for this? I'm going to throw you a very soft curveball, very soft.
I was always a pretty good hitter in baseball.
Oh, there you go. I figured that you would like the analogy. All right, so I'm going to pull out my Ted Williams art of hitting. We're going to get into this, okay? So think I don't know who the greatest batter is. All right, so soft curveball. What is the most recent book that you've read? The most recent piece of literature that might be of value to our audience members to gain a little wisdom, maybe some courage, strength, and hope out of it? What's the most recent book?
Here's a book that has made a significant impact on my life to the extent that I'm now involved with the movement. It's written by my new friend, Stephen Vinoy, and it's called The 10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Children.
10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Children.
Yes. And it's an awesome program. Stephen has a powerful testimony of his own. And so it really goes very well with part of the purpose that I have at this point is restoring families, because the kids that we have, we can't tell them what to do. We can coach them and we can offer positive messages and we can teach and so on. But today we've become so busy as parents that I think we've somewhat lessened our impact on our own kids. So it's the 10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Children is the last book.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, as a parent, I definitely appreciate that one, and I definitely know what you mean. It resonates, and sometimes it's the guilt factor of things also that I gotta say that's probably the biggest thing that I live with is how do we get the most time with our kids so that there is the most benefit in the long run, right? And we just lose through all of the other distractions and all of the other things that are out there in the world. We lose time with them, and sometimes that's through our own design. So I definitely, all right.
Too busy. We're
right.
too busy.
All of us are too busy, yeah. It's
right.
funny. I think we were talking about this. Margaret Thatcher's famous quote, "There's no such thing as society, only men, women, and families." So being able to have that family unit and being able to not just have a family, but share things.
Right.
How many times do you get together in a family reunion? It's like, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm doing great. When are we actually going to stand up and go, I am not doing well. I'm really not. We all live separate. I'm not doing well. I need somebody to help me with this stuff. So anyway, all right. What was the name of the book again?
The 10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Children.
10 Greatest Gifts I Give My Children. All right. I got to look that one up. Maybe we'll throw it in the knowledge bank at 5paragraph.com. Folks, if you're not familiar with our knowledge bank at 5P, go to 5paragraph.com, click on knowledge, see all of these great books that we've been getting by name requested from all of these fantastic interview guests that we've had on our show. All right, Randy Mortensen of randymortensen.com. Go ahead and look him up right now. We're in our closing thoughts here. Any saved rounds, any words of advice before we wrap things up here for those people who are experiencing the drudgery of substance abuse right now?
I would just say, don't wait another day. And the other thing I didn't mention, if your listeners on Facebook, I actually do a daily post on my God Took Me to Las Vegas to Get Sober Facebook group page, and it's a daily words of encouragement that you're welcome to subscribe to. And I would just say, again, don't wait, because the people who are dying are somebody's husband, their wife, their son, their daughter, their niece, nephew. And the worst thing that we could ever do is live a life of regrets. Right. And only we can shape our own futures. And that's why I call my program Lifestyle Champion, because God put a lifestyle champion in each and every one of us. It's just a matter of how we can see that revealed. And then I encourage people to be extraordinary today. Right?
Outstanding. Be extraordinary today. I like that. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Randy Mortensen, randymortensen.com. Folks, if you haven't already done so, go check him out. We didn't even get into the Las Vegas story. You're totally going to have to look him up on Facebook. Went to Las Vegas to get sober. Who the heck does that? You're totally going to have to look up Randy Mortensen. Go to randymortensen.com. For all of you fine folks in the 5P family, thank you for subscribing. You people are the reason why we do what we do, and you are awesome. Based on your feedback, we have made numerous changes to the website and all that we do here on YouTube and everything else. You fine folks are the reason why we do it. Go ahead, click subscribe, ring the bell, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, and everywhere else you love listening to podcasts. We really do love you. And until next time, take care and be well.